Well, first of all, thank you very much, Alan, for coming here today. And the first of hopefully many series of Hablo Talks. And what I'd like to do is just ask you a few questions and chat about, well, you and your journey. Where do we start? How did your journey start?
Well, I started a long way back. I mean, in 1980, it was when I started at Air Canada, funny enough. Great job. I mean, my dad worked for British Airways for 25 years, you know, and so to be part of his kind of journey through the airlines of BEA and BOAC back in the day, and being lucky enough to travel overseas as a young kid was just the kind of hook for me to get into the kind of the airline industry. And I think that has always been the kind of the thing that I've always wanted to do. Living out in West London, very close to Heathrow, has kind of added to that because you could always see the planes coming in and out. So not that I'm a plane spotter, but you know they were always in and around. You know, and Dad working for British Airways always kind of like, well, you know, he does this and he can get this, and that was always where I kind of wanted to get to. So when the job sort of came up at Air Canada, and I remember going for my interview. I remember it today, you know. And funny enough, the guy that interviewed me was my boss when I left. So he'd gone through that whole journey. So we kind of gone in full circle in some respects. So as I was being interviewed, it was right at the end of the runway. As he's talking to me, I can see planes taking off in the background. I go, wow, this is great. You know? But yeah, I got the job lucky enough, and it was in the mailroom. So, and this is before email, obviously. We were talking 1980s and stuff like that. And we used to have 2 sacks of mail a day from the post office that come in, and Air Canada was a big organisation at the airport at the time. You know, at its peak, it had 1,000 employees working for the company, so it was quite big. And we had multiple offices spread around the airport. And what we would do was pick the mail up in the morning, get all of the company mail, the internal mail, and deliver it to all the departments. And for me as a young lad joining a company, it gave me the insight to the inner workings of an airline. You know, as a passenger, you just get on the plane and go. But when you're kind of seeing all the background work that goes on and the amount of teamwork it needs to make that happen, you know, just from the aircraft landing, you know, the crew meeting it, the baggage off, and then the cleaners on, and then the kind of reverse of all of that, you know, and it was just great to be part of that and to see it. And I knew every department, I knew all the kind of managers of the department, and to start there was my kind of journey. And then after about 2 years, I went and did a kind of finance department. I did that, so I kind of learned about all of the kind of how much it costs to park an aircraft at Heathrow Airport for 3 hours, and then it was on to reservations. I did 7 years in reservations. We had a great time in that, and you know it was all very much on the computer, on the phone, taking reservations. The social life department, that was fantastic because it was a young group, and we used to do little trips to Montreal for the weekend. You know, to try and think about doing that now was just almost kind of beyond my sort of wildest dreams. But we'd do an early shift on a Friday, finish at 2:30, be on the 3:30 flight to Montreal, hit the town on that night, then go shopping on Saturday, fly home Sunday night, into Monday morning, straight into the office to work. And we did that 3 or 4 times a year, and that was just fantastic, you know. And then being in reservations, you got that taste of sales. And when I joined, it was almost my ambition to be kind of in sales, be the kind of sales rep out on the road, having that kind of company car freedom to go out there and chat to people. And I achieved that. And then through my time there, I ended up being sort of head of sales when I left after 33 years in the company. So, but yeah, quite a journey, to be honest with you.
While you're talking about all that, it's taking me back to my days. As you know, I've done 30 years for British Airways. And even talking about reservations and back in the day and how you could just jump on an aircraft and do something and that whole environment of fun. Parties every weekend and stuff like that.
It was the culture of working for an airline, wasn't it? You know, that was definitely one of the perks that you could get away with. And while you were young, free and single, you could probably do that before you kind of settled down.
Yeah, no, agreed. So Air Mauritius. So now with Air Mauritius, how long have you been with Air Mauritius?
5 years now. Literally, it was 5 years yesterday. I started at Air Mauritius. So it's been quite a journey. You know, it's It's a lovely little airline, going to a wonderful part of the world. I remember my first time in Mauritius was about 20 years ago. I thought, what a great place. This is just incredible, And then part of my journey was when the Air Mauritius job came up. I thought, like, that would be just like perfect, just to kind of work for that company and have the ability to go to the island and enjoy all of that and take people there. And I remember when I had the interview, and it was like a panel interview like you would normally expect. Unusually, the CEO of Air Mauritius flew in for the interview. So I was actually interviewed by the CEO of the company, which was quite rare for him to actually come over. And I told him my journey at Air Canada, like I've just told you, and he was so mesmerised by it and impressed by my level of the operation of the airline and how things all work. He made it so that I got the job.
Oh, fantastic.
Which was great, And when I went out to Mauritius my first time for my kind of induction, and he's a busy man, as the CEO of running the airline, he knew I was in head office and he kept on phoning. He's like, bring Allan up to my office, I want to have a chat with him. So, yeah, and it was great. And sadly, he's not with the company anymore, but I'm still in touch with him via LinkedIn. So we talk quite a bit. So, and he's a good guy, Not because he employed me, but because just what he did,
Oh, fantastic. Well, as you know, I've got a lot of history with Mauritius.
Yes.
My family in Mauritius, and I'm really jealous the fact that you're working for Air Mauritius and talk about Mauritius as well.
Yeah.
Can you remember the first experience of Mauritius for you when you first went there 20 years ago?
Yeah, I did. It was quite strange because it's a 12-hour flight and it's through the night and, there's no getting away from it. You probably land a little bit kind of jaded and tired and everything else. And I can remember to this day that it was me and my wife and we was in the cab going to the resort and, I'm going, wow, look at this. Wow, look at this. I look over to my wife and she's like, she's asleep. I said, come on, wake up. This is fantastic. And just the kind of the welcome we got at the resort was just fantastic. And even by day 2, you go for dinner in the evening and you kind of find your spot where you want to sit in a restaurant and you'd have the same waiter every night. And by day 2, he came over to me, good evening, Mr. Ram. Was that a beer and a water that you would like for your dinner? And he just knew what I wanted straight away, within 2 days. So that kind of gets you into that thought process of like, what are these people like? And they're so welcoming and so humble as well. And, they just enjoy their environment, enjoy working, and it shows, And the resorts are beautiful,
Oh, no, 100%.
No matter where you stay. And it's quite strange, when you actually go through and stay at different resorts, there is certain themes at each resort that you kind of pick up. And it's quite interesting, where you're greeted when you go to dinner. Some of the people go like that to greet you, and some of them go like this, and some of them just go like this. It's just they all have their own individuality, and it's wonderful. You're treated really, really well when you're there. So it's a great place to go. You're very lucky that you're from that part of the world.
Lucky and unlucky. With Mauritius now and showing all of the live views, I just really want to be there.
Yeah, well, you and me both.
Very true. 2nd of October, first flight from a long while from Mauritius to London, and out on the 3rd of October, London to Mauritius.
Yeah. It's been a while. One of these things of the pandemic, and to be fair, the island has done very, very well in managing the pandemic. And that they shut the island down pretty quickly. And obviously that stopped our flying ability as well. But now the borders are opening from the 1st of October. So if you've been double jabbed, then there's no quarantine when you arrive. You can just literally go and enjoy your holiday as you would do normally, which is great. So when we put the flights back in to the system to sell, and it was on the 19th of July, and we've just seen this huge kind of backlog of pent-up demand just realise itself. And, our October flights are looking very, very good at the moment, which is great to see. But
that's really good to hear.
Yeah.
Really good to hear. As you know, I love my food.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. And
me too.
I don't know whether or not, do I have to wait till I go to Port Louis to have the food, okay, that I love? Or I'm curious, and I've always been curious about that.
Okay.
Air Mauritius.
Food. Yeah.
Air Mauritius. Am I going to be expecting my gajak and aluda on board the aircraft?
Not quite to that kind of level, but you will have a flavour of Mauritius when you travel with us. And what we say about Air Mauritius is that your journey and your holiday starts when you board the Air Mauritius flight, because you get that flavour of Air Mauritius. With the cabin crew, the interior colours are all kind of geared around the kind of the blue waters and everything else. And we wanted to put a lot of emphasis on the food. And the food's important because we do carry Mauritians back as well as holidaymakers. And the food for any Mauritians, as you just pointed out, is important. So what we do is we have a head chef in Mauritius that puts the menus together. And we change it every 2 months. So there's a cycle that goes around. There's 4 different cycles that we have. So every 8 months, there's kind of a new menus coming through. So the catering company here get the spec from the head chef. So they prepare the meals. But then they need to make sure that it's right. So what they do is they ask some of the Air Mauritius employees, there's not many of us, so we all get a good chance. So we go and do a meal tasting. So we go down to the caterers and we go through everything. So we go through the breakfast, the main meal and an evening meal. So all the different variations of meals that you can have. So you have the business class and you have the economy meals. We also get to taste what the flight crew have as well, because they have a separate menu.
Yep.
And also the captain and the first officer have to have separate meals for obvious reasons, just in case there is something wrong with one of them, whatever. But yeah, we get to taste all of that. And what we've done in the past is we've actually taken some travel agencies along to these meal tastings as well. And just to give them that real kind of flavour of what it's like. And they thoroughly enjoy it because we get the chef from the catering company to come along and present it. And he explains what the ingredients are and how it's cooked. And even to the point where once we've finished the meal tasting, we provide feedback forms. So we kind of think, well, that's probably too much of a meal in terms of, because there was like the lamb that we were serving was like huge. It was like great if you've got a great appetite, but it's quite a large portion. So we kind of fed that back. And they said, well, yeah, okay, that's what the weight of the meat is, and that's what we want to have, and that's how it goes. So we can have some input to it. So once they've done that feedback, they prepare a full set again. We put it on the aircraft and send it to Mauritius, and then they have a meal tasting in Mauritius with the head chef, and they will test it. And if there's any more feedback that they want to change, then they can do that. So it's a really important part of meal service of the aircraft. So what we do is make sure it's right, not just for the British tourists to have that kind of flavour, but for the Mauritians travelling back too, because that's important.
Let's change the subject now because my stomach's rumbling. Okay, let's change the subject slightly.
Okay.
What makes the travel trade such a strong community?
It is just that. It is a community. It's like a family, and I felt it. When I was with Air Canada, you had the Canadian family, and it's exactly the same with the Mauritian family. Mm-hmm. There's no boundaries. You work for British Airways, I work for Air Canada, and now Air Mauritius, and yet we're competitors. But that community, that doesn't matter that we're competitors. So if we're in an event, or whatever it may be within the travel industry, we go up and talk to each other. Mm-hmm. We're going to have a coffee, we're going to have a beer with each other. Mm-hmm. And that's brilliant. And I think that's quite unique. But also too is that the travel trade is so close-knit and they kind of work hard, play hard kind of thing.
Yeah.
But it's the resilience of it that stands out more than anything else. We've both been in the industry a long time. We've been through a lot of different things that have impacted this industry. And it is a fragile industry from a point of view that it doesn't take much for things to kind of stop straight away. We've had 9/11, we've had, the Middle East crisis, we've had COVID recently, we've had ash clouds, we've had, airline strikes. All of those things impact everything. But the bounce back of the travel industry is just incredible. And we're seeing it even now. We're just coming out of the pandemic. The borders are being open globally. The government's allowing us to travel again, albeit with certain restrictions. But it's not stopping the British public going on holiday. And this industry is so big that there is enough out there to kind of accommodate everybody. One of my first big events I went to in my kind of career was a World Travel Market. And World Travel Market is a huge event, and it kind of in your first time in the industry, you realise how huge this industry is, the different elements of it, the inbound, outbound tourism, the different countries, the different areas of the world. And it's just incredible that they all kind of come together in one place for World Travel Market, and everybody's there. It's just think, right, you kind of live in your own little world sometimes when you work for an airline or you work for a country or wherever it may be. But to see it globally is just absolutely incredible to see. And, and I think we will bounce back from this one. It'll take a little bit longer than planned, but I think that's one of the key things about this industry that makes it special. When the going gets tough, the tough get going, and that's the travel industry for sure. They've stuck with it. Sadly, there's been casualties throughout all of this, but that we'll get back together. There's enough people. When big names go, and I've known people in this industry that work for those big names, but they resurface in other places, and they do what their background and what they've learned is transferable into other companies as well. And it makes it work, So there's a lot good things going for this industry.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. And just you talking about regenerating and being a new person and everything, having worked for BA for 30 years and now find, myself doing this, working with Hablo and talking to you, it's great.
But, that's what the airline industry has. It has that kind of transferability that, you develop skills that you can transfer into other industries if you want to. But, like me, it's in my blood. Like I was out for about 3 years out of the industry, but when the job came up at Air Mauritius, I was like, yeah, I want this. I so want to get back in the industry.
Looking forward, I actually still think that everyone's going to have to be even more creative than they were beforehand.
Yeah.
With the way things are going as well. How do you see the green shoots and things opening up?
Well, the green shoots are definitely there, and it is. And I think the word flexibility has got to come into it now. And airlines in the past have been very kind of strict with their kind of fair rules, what you can and what you can't do. And I think moving forward, that's all got to go, and be a little bit more flexible, because there are things that happen that are out of people's control, and you basically, once you've got your customer, you want to keep them, you want to be as flexible as what you can be. And the travel trade have also got to be in that kind of environment of understanding of what those kind of rules are. And I think the industry needs to kind of align itself and say, look, we all have flexible rules. Let's all be the same. Because the poor travel trade has got one airline saying this, another airline saying that, another airline saying this. It makes it very difficult for them to understand. And I've always had a great deal of respect for the travel trade, because they've got to learn the world.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, whereas, you and me have learned about British Airways, which is generally, in your case, the world, but I've been very defined. Canada, I was an expert on Canada, Mauritius, an expert on Mauritius. But these travel agencies have got to be an expert on everything. And that's not easy.
Yeah, no, I agree. Having been a travel agent myself, it isn't easy at all. And I agree with you. I think things are going to be a lot more simplified. They have to be more simplified moving forward.
Yeah.
We've been living in the world with high season, low season, shoulder season, medium shoulder season, just for fares.
Yeah.
I know Air Mauritius have simplified things now with one fare, all the way up until the end of March, I think it is, isn't it?
Yeah, we've got a new fare out, £567, all inclusive, taxes, everything else. So, it's like everything else. There are kind of peaks and troughs where that is available and not, but generally there's the good availability at that particular fare. So, to get to Mauritius for that kind of money is quite good value for money compared to what it is elsewhere. But, we have to kind of attract the right kind of level of people that want to go, and it just needs to be hit the right mark. There's a perception that what's expensive to somebody and what's not. And all of the additional items that people have to pay for now, PCR tests. But, adding to all of that is expensive to add to the holiday. And we've always kind of thought, you've got to think, look, if you're more expensive than the competitor, even if it's by £20, the family of four becomes £80. And £80 is a lot of money that you could be spending on your holiday. So, just looking at what's around and being kind of conscious of what the competition's doing, what we can do, and it's a fine line. The margins nowadays for travel agencies and for airlines is getting thinner and thinner.
Yeah.
And that makes it very difficult.
Yeah, no, I agree. So going back to the first flight, it's once a week.
Once a week on a Sunday.
Leaves on Saturday.
Leaves Saturday, Mauritius, go out here on a Sunday.
Air Mauritius are opening up as well with South Africa as well and Europe as well.
Yeah, Paris, there's 4 flights a week. Joburg, we're hoping to have 1 flight a week out of there. We've got some limitations on some of the other places that we normally fly to, Australia, India, Kenya, places like that. But in time, once their vaccination levels have hit a good number, then they'll open up as well.
Yeah. Do you know what? That's music to my ears, just knowing how things are opening up for Mauritius with Air Mauritius as well. It's great.
It's been a long time. This challenge of the pandemic has been a long one, whereas the other issues that we dealt with have been relatively short in comparison to this. This one's hit hardest, but we'll get through it. And we'll get through it, and we'll do well. And Mauritius is always going to be that kind of ideal destination where people want to go to. It's that bucket list destination, and we're also seeing a lot of people that still want to do the triangle thing, whereas people go to South Africa and do the safaris and then fly up to Mauritius for their beach holiday and then fly back again. So that's always been very, very popular. So hopefully that will continue again in the future as we kind of get back to things. But what we're seeing is that when people are now booking their holidays, the spend is greater. The spend is either greater on the length of stay or where they're staying, and they're upgrading where they're staying, or they're upgrading their meal plan when they're there. So, because they haven't been on holiday for so many periods of time, there is this kind of little pot of money that they've been putting away for holidays. So now they've got the opportunity, they're spending more, which is great to see, and long may it continue.
We were talking about this the other day, about going out and visiting the trade and seeing the trade and getting the message out there. And we will do everything that we possibly can at Hablo to support you in that.
And it's great. I think you've come along at the right time. And to have that Hablo platform, that's unique at the minute to sort of the Mauritian Tourist Board, and sort of like its associated members of the Mauritian family. It's the place to go to for the most up-to-date information. What we can put on there. It's just perfect timing for you guys.
Yeah, I love it when I just open up and see various hotels in Mauritius on the platform. And
I know you sent me a message the day I put the Air Mauritius page on. You said you've made your day.
No, it's fantastic. It's fantastic.
Well, I think with Hablo, what it's doing is giving that kind of platform for us to kind of communicate as well. Because we're in this kind of world at the minute where we're not necessarily communicating face-to-face like we are now. We'll get there, but we need other platforms to kind of make that happen. And I think, Hablo, where it sits at the minute, with the Mauritius Tourist Board, the MTPA's portal on there, and what we're doing here in the UK, and all the partners joining up, it becomes almost like that kind of the go-to place to communicate and to tell the trade what we're doing, And I'm asking head office. So as soon as I get some new images, the new fare that came out, I got a specific image, and so it's straight onto Hablo. And they prepared it specially so I can literally cut and paste and put it straight on. And it's so easy to use. It really works. I mean, if you're used to posting on Facebook or on LinkedIn, you'll get Hablo like that.
See, I've got on here what were the best parts of working for Air Mauritius. Okay, but you've mentioned the food side of things as well.
I think working for Air Mauritius it's like that family. The people that work for us in head office are very special people. They've got so much of that kind of culture that they kind of work with, and they're just generally well educated. They know what they're doing. They understand the differences between what the UK want to what Australia wants to what Paris wants. They are like a family. And the kind of team that we have here in the UK are great. We've got a mixture of Mauritians and we've got a mixture of Europeans and English people. And we all kind of understand what we need. you know, and they all want the best. And for sort of like the London route. The London route is kind of one of those sort of jewel in the crowns of Air Mauritius, you know, because going back to sort of Mauritius was, you know, ruled by the UK, you know, under UK rule as it was the French before that. So there is that kind of history there, you know, it's with the French as with the English. So to have the London on their kind of route portfolio is far more important, and they always want to have more. You ask anybody in Mauritius, you know, whether it's, you know, anybody that works in a hotel, anybody that works in head office, or anybody who works for the government, like, when can we go daily? When can Air Mauritius go daily to the UK? And it will happen, but it's got to happen over a period of time. We need that kind of organic growth for sustainability. The minute you put daily flights on and you don't get the demand that you need, then, you know, it's just going to kind of come backwards. So we kind of need to grow in the right way.
I do see this reset and this clean sheet of paper starting from scratch, one at a time, see demand, then increase demand after that.
It's the way forward, I think, you know, and Air Mauritius kind of gets that. The financial situation of the company is, you know, is well documented, and, you know, hopefully we'll kind of turn the corner very shortly on that. But we need to kind of make sure that, you know, we as a company are sustainable as well. And it's such a I keep using the word jewel in the crown for Mauritians to have their own airline. And it's so important for them. You know, it's one of their kind of like international brands, if you like, that kind of puts Mauritius on the map. This is where Air Mauritius flies to. So I think it's important, you know, and you know, people take a lot of pride. Mauritians are very sort of proud of what it achieves, and Air Mauritius sits within that kind of group of companies that are they're very proud to call that.
What advice do you have for people within the industry and people that are thinking of joining the industry?
Well, I think we're both testament to kind of how well a good career that you could have. And I think if you can get into the industry, I mean, there's plenty of sort of travel and tourism courses that you can do now. Is always a good start. Some of the bigger chains, the high street chains, people like Hayes Travel, for example, are doing kind of apprenticeships and things like that. If you can get yourself into that as a starting point, you know, if you've got the passion for sort of like wanting to see the world and having that ability to kind of give people good levels of service, you will have a great career within the industry. It is so diverse, it's so big, so different, you know, and it is a cliche, no 2 days are the same when you're working in travel, you know, because even if you're working for an airline, different things happen on different days. If you're working in a travel agency, you'll have different customers come in. If you're working in a call centre, you'll be talking to different customers about different destinations. You could be talking about cruises one day, or you could be talking about, you know, safaris the next. It's so diverse and so different. So if you're looking for something that kind of keeps your imagination going, keeps your mind, if you ever have a sponge-like mind, the travel industry is the right industry for you to get into, because I'm going to say another cliche, the world's your oyster. No, sorry, I had to put that one in.
True.
But it can be, you know, when we kind of get back to normality, and it will be soon, the airlines, the tourist boards, the resorts will want to showcase, okay? You know, and there will be opportunities for the travel trade to travel and be on those fam trips where they get to see and enjoy all of what the world's got to offer. And if you want to do that, you've got, you know, the travel agencies, you've got tour operators, you've got cruise companies, you've got airlines. There's so many different elements that you want within the kind of industry to kind of create a path for what you want to do. And I think, you know, it has longevity, you know. Some industries you may think, well, that's only around for a few more years. But the travel trade has got longevity. People always want to travel. You know, how we travel in 20 years' time could be different to what we do now, but the demand for people to go away and have holidays will still be around. So it'll be a good industry to get into.
Okay, agreed totally. And just one last point to that. People in the industry and doing something like ourselves that have changed, and you talked about transferable skills earlier on. Any advice you can give to people that have either been displaced or just jumping out, thinking of coming back in again?
Yeah, I've always sort of looked that every day in this industry is a learning day, you know, and whatever experiences you have, whatever skills that you pick up will be transferable. Store them up here, store them in your computer. One day you're going to need them, because there is a wide range of different skills that we have. And sometimes as you're kind of going through your career, may not be realizing what that skill is. And until such time as you're writing your CV and say, yeah, I've done that. And you're looking at a job description of something that interests you. Yeah, I've done that. It may not be 100% on the line in terms of what they're looking for, but it's damn close. And there's lots of sort of things that we do. You know, even if you're a travel agency and you're literally got a customer in front of you, you're a salesperson. Yeah, you're selling somebody an experience, a holiday, or a destination. You're a salesperson. And if you're a salesperson, you can go anywhere. You can do anything with what you want to do in this world. So, you know, the transferable skills are there. Sometimes it's not as obvious as you might think.
No, agreed. I totally agree. Allan, thank you.
Pleasure.
Thank you so much, young man.